All right, good morning. My name is Lieutenant Dreyer, call sign Moist, and today we're here to demonstrate the mission conduct portion of the brief for a AWI 2VX event. So our mission objective is to execute 3 2VX runs in accordance with STAN and FTI. Training objectives are going to be on the board. For mission planning factors, friendly air order battle, we're going to be 2 T-45 simulating F-18 Foxtrot, call sign Bullet 1-1 and Bullet 1-2 with a notional loadout of 402 and gun. AIC is going to be a notional E2D Hawkeye, call sign Saber. Our bullseye today is going to be co-located with the Brooklyn Vortex, call sign Denver. Our enemy air order battle, our threats today are going to be MiG-29 Fulcrums and Su-27 Blinkers, with a loadout of 10 Alpha Alamos with a max range of 15 nautical miles and 11 Alpha Archers with a max forward quarter range of 3 nautical miles and rear quarter range of 1.5 nautical miles. For rules of engagement today, groups declared hostile with correlation, we are authorized weapons release. Groups declared bogey will require a VID for a hostile declaration in order for us to have a weapons release. Is there any questions over mission planning factors? All right, for our conduct, in the pre-commit phase, we'll be capping in the east at 15,000 feet, 250 knots, and attack wing. We'll have our system set up with our MRM sanitization set with our radars mated at 25 nautical miles with lead owning 40 and down and wing owning surface and up. Our razor will be at 20,000 feet today with lead owning that razor of 20,000 feet. We'll then integrate with AIC for the initial picture call. Saber will respond in broadcast control anchored to Denver. For our initial picture, for our example here, on Pry, Saber, 2 groups, Group Denver 160, 50, 20,000, track east, hostile. Group Denver 190, 40, 20,000, track east, hostile. If we assess that these groups meet our commit criteria of flank or less target aspect and no later than 35 nautical miles, we will commit. So on Pride, bullet commit, on aux, check tapes, master arm. At this time, I'll direct a flow heading on aux point into the threat sector towards the priority group. Once we are pointing to the threat sector, bullet 1-2 will auto deploy into combat spread. After the commit, Saber will transition to tactical control anchored to bull. So for this example, it's going to be bullet 1-1, Saber, 2 groups, range 30, lead group Denver 160, 50, 20,000, hot, hostile, trail group 20,000, hot, hostile. As Saber is making this comm, we're going to look to correlate putting our cursors at the bullseye cut that Saber calls out. If we have a brick under our cursors at that bullseye cut, then we'll be correlated on that group. Otherwise, we'll make a contact declare call. So on Pry, Saber bullet 1-1, contact Denver 160, 50, 20,000, declare. And then Saber will respond with lead group Denver 160, 50, 20,000. Once we are correlated, we'll input our 3D geometry. We're going to put the threat 20, we'll execute a single side offset of either 20 or 40 to 50 for an aggressive single side offset, which we'll get to later during our targeting discussion. We'll climb or descend to put ourselves 1,000 feet below the bandit's altitude, but honoring our block structure. And it will match bandit's airspeed not to go any slower than 0.5 Mach. No later than 30 nautical miles, we'll issue targeting. Our targeting priorities today are going to be closest, hottest, highest, and then known threat. And our targeting game plan, for example, be bullet, target single group, single side offset, plan bonsai. For single group heavy, be bullet, target single group, single side offset, plan escape. For single group stack, we'll have to retarget, be bullet 1-1, target high contact, bullet 1-2, target low contact, single side offset, plan escape. For groups in azimuth, we'll reference our targeting priorities. For this example, they are equal in range, altitude, and aspect. So we'll target the known threat of the west group, so bullet target west group. And the groups in azimuth will utilize an aggressive single side offset to get away from the untargeted group. So the aggressive single side offset will be 40 to 50 degrees. And then we will plan to skate all day to groups in azimuth. For groups in range, will be bullet target lead group, single side offset, and now we're going to reference a flow range. If we have 30 miles or greater in flow range, we'll plan bonsai. If we have 29 or less, we'll plan skate. For groups in echelon, it'll be bullet target lead group, aggressive single side offset. We're looking to change any azimuth component that we have here into a range component to try to achieve our 30 nautical miles of flow range. If we achieve that 30, then we'll plan bonsai. Otherwise, we will plan skate. All right, at 30 nautical miles, we should hear a TAC range call out of AIC informing us that we are 30 seconds to meld. If we do not hear that call, then the fighter with SA can make that call as well. At meld range, the fighter with the group in their AOR will call the meld. For this example, the lead group is at 20,000 feet, so they are in leads AOR. So bullet 1-1 will call the meld. On aux, bullet meld bra 270, 25, 20,000. For our mech, we'll bump our cursors down to decrement the range from 80 to 40, bump them left to decrement the azimuth from 140 to 80, center our cursors on the bearing of the contact and full action trigger squeeze to center the radar scan volume, then take center the elevation to bracket the bandit's altitude, then take an STT, and then hit push button 10 for Twiz. Once we are in Twiz, we'll be able to sort the contacts in the group. For our sort game plan today, bullet 1-1 will sort left, lead, and high, bullet 1-2 right, trail, and low. Our sort assumption is going to be strength 2, sortable in azimuth. If that assumption is made, nothing needs to be said. Otherwise, bullet 1-1 will be directive and 1-2 will be descriptive with their sort comm. So for example, for strength 2 sortable range on aux, bullet 1-1 will make the comm on aux bullet sort range. 1-2 will respond bullet 1-2 sorted trail. All right, once we are sorted and we have with a hostile declaration and valid shot criteria of being in Twiz, STT, and LAR with a stable track file, we'll employ at 20 nautical miles. Remember, if we are in an aggressive single side offset, we might have to call pull for the shot to our pilot in order to put the threat at the nose in order to get that in LAR for the shot. So with that valid shot criteria, we'll employ our MRM and then calling Fox 3 on prize. So on prize bullet 1-1, Fox 3. After hearing 1-2 shot, then on aux we bullet crank. The crank will put the bandit 50 degrees ATA in the direction that makes sense. And then this will allow us to slow down range travel, allowing our missiles to time out. All right, while we are in our crank no later than 15 nautical miles, we'll make an assessment of whether they are aware or unaware. We'll assess they are aware if they have 30 target aspect or less, or if they have 60 target aspect or less and the fighters are spiked. If they are unaware, then we will start to manage target aspects to force the merge, taking follow-on shots to the kill call. If they are aware, then we'll defend on timeline, which we'll talk about here soon. No later than 10 nautical miles is going to be our abort range. We'll talk about abort during contingencies. At 8 nautical miles is going to be our no later than defense range. We'll endeavor to wait till bullet 1-2 calls their timeout prior to the defense, but again, not defending later than 8 nautical miles. For our defense mech, we're going to calculate a 90-degree beam heading and tell our pilot over ICS. And then for the comm, it'll be bullet defend south. For our mech, it's going to be a hard turn to the beam and then push button 15 and 14 for chaff and reset. We'll then rock to our SRM mode, putting our cursors at 8 to 10 nautical miles and bracketing the bandit's last known altitude. After that is complete, bullet 1-1 will then make their timeout call, and then bullet 1-2, if you did not make your timeout call prior to the defense, now is the time to make your timeout call if your missile did reach timeout. We will stay in the defense until we are naked, but no longer than 10 seconds. So if we are spiked at 10 seconds, then we will pitch in to force the merge. For the pitch in, we're looking to turn 110 to 130 degrees. Once we get bricks on the screen, we'll call bricks over ICS, telling the pilot to put them on the nose. We'll immediately take an STT and then look to see if we have an NLAR. If we have an NLAR for a SRM, we'll employ and then call Fox 2 over Pry. If not, we'll switch to MRM and then employ the MRM, calling Fox 3, and then immediately rocking the SRM for follow-on shots. Once we employ, then we'll be calling modified arrow calls to our pilot over ICS for calling out azimuth, range, and elevation to get our pilot's eyes talked onto the right piece of sky, looking for tally. Once we gain tally of the bandit, we'll call that tallycom over aux to let the entire section know where to look for this bandit. If we are tally during missile timeout or missile impact of a SRM, we can call the kill call. For example, on Pry, bullet 1-1, kill locked 20,000 lead group. All right, now if we are high SA into the merge, meaning that we were tally and called the kill, then we'll flow into the threat sector. If we are low SA, meaning we had no tallies and no kills called, then we will flow on our pre-merge heading. Both high SA and low SA, as we are flowing, will execute short-range radar. For short-range radar, we'll enter into WIDAC for 10 seconds, then into our SRM sanitization set for 10 seconds with lead owning 1,000 feet below own ship altitude and up, and wing owning 1,000 above own ship altitude and down. We'll stay there for 10 seconds and then go into our MRM sanitization set for 10 seconds. After that, we'll look to get contact of the follow-on group. If we don't have anything on our screen, then we'll make our anchor flow picture call, getting a brawl from AIC to the follow-on group. So for the anchor flow picture call on Pry, Sabre, bullet 1-1, Denver 16050, 20,000, flow 270 picture, and then Sabre responding, bullet 1-1, Sabre, lead group vanished, trail group bra, 280, 25, 20,000, hot, hostile. At which point we will target the lead or the follow-on group and enter into the timeline as appropriate. Are there any questions on conduct? Cool. All right, for air-to-air contingencies. For a bad SOAR, if a fighter takes an inadvertent shot out of STT, meaning they do not know who they shot, when they make their Fox 3 comm, they'll call locked with an altitude. So on Pry, bullet 1-2, Fox 3, locked 21,000. At this point, the other fighter will try to sort around that altitude. If they are unable, then they will shoot both contacts. For a strength disagreement, we'll use the Diddy. The fighter that sees 2 shoots 2, the fighter that sees 1 shoots none. We have a strength disagreement with 3 versus 2. For example, if bullet 1-2 sees 3 and bullet 1-1 sees 2, we'll shoot on our line per the weapons deployment tree. So bullet 1-2 will shoot the right contact and the middle contact, and bullet 1-1 will shoot the left contact. For maneuvering targets, we'll utilize the steps of recognize, communicate, and act. The definition of a maneuver is going to be a change in bandit heading resulting in a target aspect greater than 50 degrees. Once we recognize that, we'll communicate that on a prize, bullet 1-1, a lead group maneuver, expecting Sabre to respond once the maneuver has stabilized with labeling the maneuver. So for this example, Sabre lead group beam south. Once we communicate the maneuver, then we'll act. On aux, we'll call go pure, getting the section to put the threat on the nose to maintain radar SA. Once we have maintained radar SA, then we'll see if the threat turns hot. If they start turning hot towards us, we'll look for our valid shock criteria, employ on our sort, and then enter into the crank and re-intercept our timeline. If they do not turn back hot at us, then we'll start referencing reset criteria. For reset criteria, outside of 20 nautical miles, if they have greater than 60 target aspect for more than 5 seconds, between 10 and 20 nautical miles, if they have greater than 95 target aspect for 10 seconds, and then inside of 10 nautical miles, we will not reset, we will force the merge. So if they do meet reset criteria, initially we'll, like I said, put the threat on the nose for 5 seconds, and then we'll put, if they do not turn hot, we'll put them 50 ATA cold for 5 seconds, and then we'll execute our reset mech. It'll be a hard turn to put the threat at the 6 o'clock, unloading to set a 0.1 Mach speed advantage. For the comm, it'll be bullet on pry, bullet 1, our bullet reset east, Saber monitor single group. After we execute the reset and mech, we'll go into our PAPS checklist, which we'll talk about in a second. For the abort, as we talked about in our targeting game plan, we'll abort to single group heavy, single group stack, groups in azimuth, or groups in range if we don't achieve our flow range of 30 and greater. We'll also abort if we have no radar SA by 15 nautical miles. For our abort mech, it's going to be 135 degree overbaking turn, 4G max to put the threat at our 6, setting point 7 Mach and looking to lose 5 to 7,000 feet in altitude. At this point, then we'll go into our PAPS checklist just like we would have in a reset. For our PAPS checklist, the P is to put the threat at 6. As we're doing this, we're going to execute our short range radar mech that we previously spoke about. The A is going to be assess targeted status. We're going to do this by reintegrating with AIC to see if the group that we aborted on vanished or not. If they did not vanish, then we'll continue to run away from them. If they did vanish, as we hope they would, then AIC will call the bra to the follow-on group. B is going to be blue force composition, so we'll call out our missile loadout in fuel state over aux with 1-2 responding. S is going to be system setup. We'll set up our MRM sensitization set. Again, it made it at 25 nautical miles. And then T is going to be for targeting and turn in. We will only be able to turn in if we have a range of 30 nautical miles or greater. Otherwise, we'll continue to run away. So the group that we aborted on vanished. So in this example, the lead group, we make that picture call. Saber says lead group vanished. Trail group, bra 22040, 20,000 hot hostile. We'll be able to target that group and turn in as appropriate, and intercepting the timeline and executing the timeline to the follow-on group. All right, for no radar SA, we'll continue to integrate with AIC, calling out clean, and then utilizing the attack range call for SA as well. So if Saber makes that attack range call at 30 miles when we don't have SA, we know meld is going to be in 30 seconds. So technique is to call for that picture call in 20 seconds. So as AIC is making their call, we can direct this section to meld off of that call to try to gain radar SA. If we still don't have radar SA, we'll execute a crank based off of AIC's bra call, and then if we have no radar SA by 15 nautical miles, we'll execute that abort. All right, for a bogey BID situation, it's going to change our timeline, has small changes. So at 20 nautical miles, we will not shoot, but we'll still execute our crank to slow our downrange travel, so we can assess whether they are aware or unaware. If they are unaware, we'll start managing target aspect in order to force the merge, and then only shooting as applicable if the BID is declared hostile. If they are aware, we will now defend at 12 nautical miles, and then out of the pitch-in bullet 1-1, we'll call an eyeball, and then 1-2 holding a couple potatoes to get that shooter eyeball split, and 1-2 calling in shooter. At 2 to 3 nautical miles from the threat, bullet 1-1 will make the standby lead group calm in order to get everybody to stop talking on the radio because a BID is coming. Once bullet 1-1 is in position to make that BID, has 3 options to make this call. So the best one obviously is going to be a shoot NATO identifier, lead group hostile, or a friendly skibit call, and then hopefully never happens a unable ID comm. After bullet 1-1 makes the BID and declares the group hostile, then expecting 3 comms out of bullet 1-2. Hopefully a Fox 2 or Fox 3 comm followed by kill. Second being a shot in 5, meaning that bullet 1-1 is still in their HUD field of view and needs to get out of the way, but they still will have a shot in 5. What we don't want to hear is a unable shot comm. All right, are there any questions over air-to-air contingencies? All right, so that is an example of a mission conduct portion of the brief for 2BX. I briefed everything thoroughly so that you can utilize the brief for a 1v1 or a 2v2 brief as well, just taking out the things that don't apply to those events. Or if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Again, I'm Lieutenant Dreyer, call sign Moist.